Hey team, Raphael here. And I've had so many questions about the Diploma of Clinical Pilates that I've decided to put them all together into a special Ask Me Anything. So here are all your questions about the Diploma of Clinical Pilates and my answers. The first question I've received from a lot of people is, how can you do clinical Pilates online? Well, you'll actually find that you will get a much deeper appreciation and understanding and level of skill in the online format compared with face-to-face. Many people mistakenly assume that online learning is less interactive. Basically they imagine lots of pre-recorded videos and automated quizzes, but that's not this course. In this course, you'll actually have more live eyeball-to-eyeball time with your trainers than in any other course in Pilates anywhere in the world. You'll have over 200 live contact hours with your trainers. That's real-time, interactive, face-to-face dialogue with your trainers. You'll have even more hours, live hours with your classmates in live practice sessions. So just as an example of how that sort of plays out over a week, each week you'll have begin the week with a live lecture, which is 90 minutes, and that is delivered by me live, and there's Q&A, there's discussion. It's not show and tell. It is a conversation. There's plenty of opportunities for questions and digressions and interesting conversations that arise out of that lecture. Then you'll have a small group tutorial, which is another live session. It's 90 minutes. It's with a trainer and a maximum of 12 students. And in that tutorial, you will practice under supervision of your trainer, and with guidance of your trainer, you'll practice the skills, both the cognitive and or the clinical and physical skills of clinical Pilates. So you'll practice doing exercises, you'll practice communication, you'll practice client assessment, you'll practice having conversations with clients about behaviour change. You will practice interpreting scan reports. So basically you will practice the skills of being a clinical Pilates instructor. You'll receive individualised, tailored, real-time feedback from your trainer and from your classmates. And then possibly the most valuable component for you will be the masterclasses, which are also live. And each week there will be 2 of those, and they are specific to diploma content. And so in those masterclasses, a masterclass is it's a kind of a hybrid between a Pilates class and a tutorial where you will work on or have demonstrated to you the concepts and skills that you've learned in those tutorials. So you will. It's not always the case that you'll be doing Pilates in those sessions. You will be doing Pilates in many of them. In some of them, you'll be watching trainers teach a session, a clinical session. In some of them, you'll be, watching trainers, implement some of the other skills like client assessment or various other skills that you'll learn. So that is really and then they finish with a live Q&A, so you can really unpack everything that you've seen and learned and ask questions, and the trainer can kind of explain their methodology, their thinking, etc. And that's an interactive session at the end where you get to dialogue with your classmates as well. So, and a lot of people have told us that they find these masterclasses actually the most valuable component, because you get to watch highly experienced people doing the actual thing that you're learning to do in real time. And you also get to participate in those. So it's not just a sit and watch situation. It's mostly a situation where you're doing the activity. So then there's the masterclasses, and then of course you have live practice teaching or practice doing with your classmates. And so, many times that will be, taking your classmates through a workout or them taking you through a workout specific to what you're learning that week in the diploma. So if you're learning, for instance, post-surgical shoulder rehabilitation, the masterclass will be on post-surgical shoulder rehabilitation progressions. You'll learn how to progress a client through, exercises for post-surgical shoulder rehab. And then your practice teaching session with your classmates will be basically delivering those same exercises that you learned in your lecture and your tutorial and in your masterclass. And so there's 2 hours of practice teaching each week. So that adds up. Just the time with your trainers alone adds up to more than 200 hours over the duration of the course. So it is a highly interactive course, and you'll find that it really works well for you. So you can do all of your practice teaching hours on Zoom. You'll get an incredibly clear, rich understanding of the skills, because you're not only you're receiving them and practicing them in multiple layers, in multiple different contexts and multiple different formats. So you're receiving the information in a very structured way in the lecture with PowerPoint slides and all of that stuff, references, etc. And then in the tutorial, you're doing hands-on practice and receiving guidance and real-time feedback from your trainer. And then in your masterclasses, you're observing the process or doing the process, being guided through the process by your trainer. And then in your practice teaching sessions with your classmates, you are implementing that by yourself and receiving structured feedback from your classmates, and in turn, being their client as they implement that with you. So through all of those layers, you'll gain a really deep, rich understanding and confidence in your skills. Now, sort of separate to that, or maybe within that question, is the question I've received a bunch of times, which is, how can you do diagnosis on Zoom? Well, the first thing is, we're not going to teach you to diagnose. That's something that only certain medical and allied health professionals can legally do, and Pilates instructors cannot, unless they're also physiotherapists or medical doctors or whatever, cannot legally diagnose medical conditions or injuries. So what we are going to teach you is how to assess your client's movement, their strength and their functional abilities. And on Zoom, you do that pretty much the same way that you do it in person. You give them clear instructions on what to do, and then you watch the result. For example, if you have a client with with knee pain that's stopping them from squatting, one of the things you're going to need to do is to watch them squat. And you're going to need to watch them squat from, probably a couple of different angles, from the front and from the side. So we will teach you, as part of your tutorial process will be to teach you, how do you train your client, how do you instruct your client about how to position their device, so that you can see them from the right angle with the correct amount of light, and so you can clearly evaluate their movement. And another thing you might want to test might be their leg strength on both sides, to measure their painful leg strength versus their non-painful leg strength. And the way you might do that might be, you might do lunges or split squats or full depth one-legged squats, depending on the situation, to failure on one side, then on the other side, and then see if there's any difference. And again, you would just, give them clear instructions on where to position their device and where to stand, and then clear instructions on how to execute the move, and then you just observe the result. So really the only extra step on Zoom that's different to doing that, in an in-person situation, is you need to be able to give really clear instructions to your client on how to position their device, so it's the right distance from them, and it's filming them from the right angle, and there's the lighting is good, so they don't have their back to a window, for example, so that you can see them clearly and assess what you need to assess. So really, that is the core kind of I think concern or question that a lot of people have had, which is how do you study online? How do you assess online? Really, you do it the same way that you do it in person in many ways, and in fact, the online format actually allows you more in-person time, more live interaction, more real-time feedback, more guidance, more observation of skilled people doing the skills that you're learning than you would have in a face-to-face course. Next question is about the schedule. I've had a bunch of questions kind of about the scheduling of how does a week look. So, for example, the diploma lecture is going to be, and all times I'm talking about are in Melbourne, Australia time, so AEDT, Australian Eastern Daylight Time. The lecture is on Mondays at 11 a.m. and it's delivered live. However, it's also recorded. So, if Mondays at 11 a.m. doesn't work for you for whatever reason, you can watch it back. All of our lectures are uploaded within 3 hours of the finish of the lecture. They will be available to you within your e-learning portal to watch back. And if you're watching after the fact, you can still ask questions because we have our community platform called Slack, which is a really high-powered basically group interaction messaging communication platform. So, and I'm on there, all of your trainers are on there, all of your classmates are on there, and we are on there, basically throughout the day. So if you're watching the lecture, later that same day and you've got a question, you just pop it into Slack and we'll answer you, pretty much in real time. So you get that benefit of that live interaction, either way. And the next question about scheduling is around the masterclasses. So I mentioned the masterclasses, which is essentially it's kind of a hybrid of a Pilates class and a sort of a demonstration. So it's there'll be some combination of you watching your trainer do the skills, teach a class, assess a client, whatever, and some combination of that with your trainer talking you through doing the skills. And that will vary depending with what skill you're learning. Now, each week there are 2 masterclasses, and the masterclasses will be at fixed times. And I'm sorry, I can't tell you exactly when those times will be, but they will be at the most popular times. And those classes are live and they're also recorded. So we already have a library of, several dozen diploma masterclasses and probably more than 100 Cert IV masterclasses, which are group, mat work and reformer class masterclasses, which you can attend at your own time, on demand, and you can do those on a phone, a laptop, a tablet, iPad, whatever. And so the masterclasses are live, and at the end there's a Q&A, and we record the Q&A. So if you have a question and you're watching afterwards, there's a really good chance someone actually had that question during the live session and asked it, and so you can ask it. And of course, if you have a question that no one else asks, well, you can just type it into Slack and say, hey, Heath, during your class on, postnatal exercise, I have this question. And Heath will get back to you. This is a very highly interactive course where you get, answers not literally in real time. We're not just sitting there the whole time on Slack waiting for your questions, but we pretty much check it multiple times a day, and you'll get a question pretty darn quick. Get an answer pretty darn quick. I've had also a bunch of questions about the equipment in the course. So what Pilates equipment will you learn? What Pilates equipment do you need to do the diploma? And this diploma, differently from previous diplomas, this diploma is now focused 100% around reformer and mat work. And in past times, the diploma was taught with all of the studio equipment, the Cadillac, the chair, the barrels. And that's where, one of the ways in which this new diploma is quite different to previous diplomas. And the reason that we are focusing on reformer and mat work is simply because that's what the vast majority of our students and graduates tell us they are using in the workplace. There are very few workplaces that have a full range of studio equipment, whereas basically every workplace and even Zoom, you can do some combination of reformer or mat work. So we will teach you to use your existing knowledge of mat work or and reformer to rehabilitate the client. So this course is not about learning repertoire. There'll be a lot of Pilates practice. You'll be using your using your body and practicing movements a fair bit. But we're going to assume that you have a prior knowledge of at least one of either mat work or reformer, and preferably both. And that you are confident teaching a group class in mat work or reformer. And so what we're going to do then is we're going to take your existing skill set and say, okay, well, how can we take this exercise that you already know and break it down so it's suitable for someone who just had a rotator cuff surgery, or so that it's suitable for somebody who just had a knee reconstruction, or so it's suitable for someone with osteoporosis, or so it's suitable for someone with, pelvic organ prolapse or whatever it might be. So what we'll be focusing on is not, learning exercises so much as thinking critically about our tools, the mat, a fit ball, a flex band, a can of tomato soup, a reformer strap, thinking, critically about our tools and how can we use these tools to apply load and range of motion to this body part at the correct dose, in the correct amount that this person needs right now, and then how can we progress that and how can we regress it? So we're not going to be learning a list of exercises. We're going to be problem solving based on using what tools you have to hand. Now, if you want to focus on mat work, you can focus on just mat work. We are going to do a fair bit of work on reformer as well. And so I would recommend, in terms of equipment, that if you really want to get the most out of the course, that you get yourself access to a reformer. Now, many of you will already have that because you're working at a studio. You can just go practice at a studio, whatever. We also have for sale a folding reformer, which is an at-home type reformer. It's not a full commercial machine. You shouldn't teach clients on it. It's, for home use only, but it's a fantastic machine for you to practice and perfect the moves on, and to muck around and, play with lines of pull and force vectors and things and figure out how to get load on certain body parts. And it's $1,500 including delivery anywhere in Australia or New Zealand, which is pretty darn close to cost price. Like basically it's, we're just offering it to you, not to make money on it, but just so you have access to a reformer. And that's about half of the price of the cheapest commercial reformer you will find, and a quarter of the price of something like an Allegro. So you don't have to have access to a reformer, but I highly recommend you do. And you don't have to have skill in mat work and reformer, but you have to have skill in mat work or reformer. And if you've got both, great. But either way, you'll pick up a bit of both, but we're not going to be teaching you a list of exercises. We assume you already know those. All right, next question is around, got a couple of questions around self-mastery hours. So self-mastery hours involve you doing your personal practice of the skills and the moves, and also you observing skilled practitioners doing the skills and the moves. And unlike, I think, any other course that I'm aware of anywhere in the world, all of that is included in the diploma. So it's when you enroll, probably not when you enroll, in December this year, you'll receive a course schedule, a learning schedule, which will map out week by week what you need to do each week, your lecture, your tutorial, your masterclasses, what you need to do in your coursework, etc., what to practice in your practice teaching sessions. And so all of that is included in the course schedule. Your masterclasses and your practice teaching sessions are included in the course cost, and they include that if you simply follow the schedule, you will accrue all the hours you need to accrue. You need a total of 80 hours of personal practice and 80 hours of observation. So that is observation / participation. So, and basically if you just follow the learning schedule and do your 2 masterclasses and 2 practice teaching sessions each week by the end of the course. And that even allows you leeway to miss a week here and there and still hit the 80 hours by the end of the course. So there's that. And when can you start logging your mastery hours? Or basically, as soon as you enroll, you can start logging your hours. And, you can do your mastery hours outside of the course. You can do some of them outside of the course. So, for instance, if you've got a local studio that you want to work at or whatever, you can do that. However, you do need to do at least 50% of your hours within the course, because in those self-mastery or in those masterclasses, my apologies, and in your practice teaching sessions with your classmates, you will be not just watching kind of general clinical Pilates, you will be practicing the specific skills that you're learning each week in the course. So it actually forms part of the skill development process, is to practice, to that schedule. So we're not covering studio equipment, as I mentioned before. That was another question. And the studio equipment's been separated out. We're very likely going to offer the studio equipment course as a separate standalone course, probably in the second half of 2021. It's going to be unrelated to the diploma. So the studio equipment course won't have any clinical content in it. It will be just, here's how to do the exercises on the Cadillac, on the chair, on the barrels, etc. And I can't tell you the cost or the duration of that because we haven't written the course yet. But I can tell you it will be some small fraction of the cost and duration of the diploma. So, roughly kind of sort of, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks and, $500 to $1,000. Don't hold me to that because, like I said, the course hasn't been written yet, so I'm just guessing. But, I think that's the order of magnitude that we're going to be talking about. The studio equipment course is not required, necessary, or needed in order to do the clinical course, and it's not, it's only if you're interested in studio equipment, with or without the diploma, there'll be a course for that. And how long do I have to do the diploma? So the course itself, the structured learning for the course is over a period basically of a year. So it starts in January 2021 and it will finish in December 2021. There are basically 3 modules of about 14 weeks each module, with a break of a couple of weeks in between each module. And then, of course, there's a couple of breaks for Easter and various other public holidays. So there's a total of 43 weeks of classes spread out over a year, basically. And so if you follow the learning schedule, which requires you to do 9 hours per week of lectures, tutorials, masterclasses, and personal practice and coursework total. At the end of that course, you'll be done. You'll be ready to graduate the day you finish. However, if you fall a bit behind in some aspect, like your coursework or your personal practice or whatever, you have up to a total of 18 months. So you have an additional 6 months after the course finish date to complete your coursework, etc. And then after the 18-month mark, look, if you're not completed, the course closes and that's it, finita la musica. And then you won't, at that point, if you haven't completed the work, you won't receive the qualification. So what we find by experience is that the vast majority of people are able to complete our courses very close to the scheduled, time. So, in this case, it's basically 12 months. And I would say that, there's a very good likelihood that you will be in that basket. If, exceptional circumstances happen and, for whatever reason, you can't keep up, quite with the schedule, you've got an additional 6 months of buffer. And when is the next diploma and how many intakes will there be? And so at the moment, we only have one scheduled, and that is scheduled for January 2021 intake, and the enrolment close date is the 30th of December 2020. So you need to be enrolled by the 30th of December 2020 in order to start the course in January 2021 because there's some organisation we need to do behind the scenes, once you're enrolled in order to make your place ready for you and prepare materials and whatever. So, we need that month. And at the moment, we don't have another intake scheduled, and that is, really going to be dictated by how many people enrol. So, the more enrolments we get, the more likely we are to schedule another one sooner. Maybe this will be a one-off. Maybe it'll be once a year. Maybe it'll be twice a year. I don't think it'll be more often than that. But we'll wait and see what enrolments we get. And there are a couple of questions about costs and discounts. So is there a discount if you enrol in November 2020? Yes, there is. If you enrol in November, by close of business on the 30th of November, again, Melbourne, Australia time, 2020, there is a $500 Australian discount. So just for being an early bird, we'll give you $500 off. And of course, we do payment plans, and so you can pay it off over 12 or 18 or 24 months, I think. And so whichever payment plan you choose, you get $500 off it if you enrol by close of business 30th of November, Melbourne time. Do I get RPL if I already have a bachelor's degree in exercise science? The answer to that is no, you don't. This course, although you will receive an Australian government accredited qualification, which is a nationally recognised qualification in Australia by law, and sits alongside university degrees and high school qualifications, etc., and it is recognised around the world, so you have no problems, getting insurance and working legally, assuming you have the appropriate visa, whatever, basically anywhere in the world. Also, although you're receiving a legitimate qualification, really the primary driver of this course is a transformational learning experience. Like, I want you to take away from this course is a quantitatively and qualitatively different way of thinking about and understanding how the body and pain work. And in order for you to have that experience, in order for you to really go on that journey, you need to go, you need to step on every stepping stone in the journey. And so while there is a fair bit of anatomy and biomechanics and physiology in the course, and some of it you will be familiar with, I've got no doubt, if you've already got a bachelor's or master's degree. However, I guarantee you, even if you have a master's degree in exercise physiology or physiotherapy or something similar, you will learn lots of new stuff about anatomy, physiology, and biomechanics. I guarantee it. So that's why we're not offering RPL for that. However, if you are an ESSA member, yes, you are eligible for a discount. Check the ESSA website. And then finally, if you've done anatomy with us, if you've done our anatomy course, you are eligible for a discount, not RPL. So you still have to do the full course for the reasons previously outlined. But if you've done any anatomy courses with us, when you provide us with proof of purchase of those anatomy courses, you will have that amount deducted from your diploma enrolment fee. So if you've spent $100 on anatomy courses, you get $100 off the diploma. If you've spent $400 on anatomy courses with us, you get $400 off your diploma with us. And the reason for that is because a lot of the anatomy content that you've already learned in the anatomy course is transplanted and housed within the diploma, and we don't want to charge you twice for the same content. So I believe that is all the questions that I have. So thank you very much to all of you who asked questions. I hope you find this helpful. If you have any other questions about the diploma or about anything else, you can email me, Raphael, raphael.b@breathe.edu.au, or Slack me, or hit me up on social media. Hope you're well. Hope your family's well. I hope I see you in this course. If you're somebody who's passionate about, if you're a qualified instructor and you're ready for the next level, and you really want to learn on a deep level so you truly understand how the body works and how to use that knowledge to help somebody to overcome pain and disability, this is the course for you. Actually, there is one final question, I'm sorry, which is, can I enroll if I'm in the diploma if I'm currently enrolled in the Cert IV? And the answer to that is no, you can't, I'm sorry. The reason for this is that, and it is a hard and fast rule. So, even if you've got previous experience as a PT or a Pilates instructor or whatever, if you're currently enrolled in our Cert IV or someone else's Cert IV or Pilates course, you can't enroll in the diploma. And here's why. We've, in the past, many times, we've had people enroll in the diploma whilst they were still undertaking the Cert IV. And what happens is they got overwhelmed and melted. And because you get to the end of the Cert IV, or you're not quite at the end of the Cert IV, the diploma starts, all of a sudden you've got double the workload, and just people have not had good outcomes with that. And I would not want you to sign up for an expensive course like the diploma that is a full, commitment and a transformational experience, and to not get the most out of it. I don't want you to have that experience. So you need to have completed your Cert IV with us or with anyone else, as in graduated, so that you don't have additional coursework to do and you're not doubling up. I hope you find that helpful. I really look forward to working with you in the diploma. I'm super pumped and excited about this course, and I hope you are too. Ciao.